You are now tuned in to Go Time Dolphins with Charlie Touche and Kadeem Simmons, the Miami Dolphins podcast that's for the fans and by the fans.
Gotta make them lose their mind when it's your time. And it's show time. Going all out when it's go time. I ain't wasting no time. Gotta make them lose their mind when it's show time. Cause it's your time. Lay it on the line when it's go time. Don't waste no time.
Eagle-eyed viewers on YouTube, you will notice that I am once again different background. I've left Miami. I'm now in Orlando. It's my final stop before heading back to London to cap off what has been a eventful 2 weeks in the States. So much to discuss, so much to delve into, so much to analyze. And as always, joining me is Mr. Charlie Touche. Charlie, how are you?
It's Go Time Dolphins, the Miami Dolphins podcast that goes not only across the pond, but across the world. I'm your boy, Charlie Touche. Got my co-host, Kadeem Simmons, with me. It's always for the fans and by the fans. Your favorite podcast, and official affiliates of Fanatics, where you could be a fanatic of your favorite franchise. Kadeem, we've had a little more time to digest the unfortunate concussion that Tua has suffered in the previous game against Buffalo. You were there for it. You had a front row seat at it. You were at the game. I was actually supposed to be at the game, but I couldn't make it. I ain't gonna lie, that's not nothing I want to see in person. That being said, we had some time to really digest it. Some roster moves have been made. What we got going on?
Before we discuss Tua and the Dolphins, can we discuss fantasy very quickly?
Go ahead.
Charlie, I'm 0-2. I'm 0-2, and I'm annoyed because with Sunday Night Football to play, ESPN said that I was favored to win. So just very quickly, I brought in J.K. Dobbins for B.J. Robinson. No, for Brian Robinson, sorry. And Dobbins had himself a great game. Brilliant. Love that. So my final two players were Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon. And I'm like, Texans against the Bears. I've got this. My first season.
How many points were you down?
Down 30, I think.
I ain't gonna lie, that's not a gimme. 30 is not a gimme with two players.
Not at all. But I was saying, yes, I was down 30. But even like, the matchup probability was favored like 7%. And so I had Mixon, Diggs, and also Jake Elliott, the kicker for the Eagles. So two players plus a kicker. But I was like, I would like to think that Mixon and Diggs against Chicago Bears would at least get me to a place where, Elliott can kick myself to victory, especially when my opponent didn't get many points from Tua, got 0 points from Evan Ingram. Xavier Worthy didn't do too well. So I was like, you know what? I can do this. Devontae Adams had himself a game. I couldn't do it. Could not get over the line. So I'm 0-2. But still confident I can get my first win, hopefully week 3. How'd you get on in fantasy?
I'm 2-0, Kadeem. Because that's what veterans do in Veterans League. They make veteran moves. Not only am I 2-0, I believe I'm first place in the two major leagues that I'm playing in. The league that I play in, and also the Go Time Dolphins League. I'm in first place, and I'm 2-0. But I only brought that up because you asked me. I was not going to say that. You asked me, so I had it was not unsolicited. But got a pretty competitive league in the Go Time Dolphins podcast league. And since we're talking about fantasy football right now, shout out to all of our Patreons and all of our patrons on Patreon. We have Miami Dolphin Dan Marino throwback college football jersey giveaway on Patreon. So if you wanna get involved with some of the Patreon giveaways, you got to subscribe to our Patreon. But I got the jersey. Cannot wait to give it away. But we're also gonna have a fantasy football segment on Patreon as well. So we got game balls, we got extra point, we have we have easy money on Patreon. Now we're gonna have a fantasy football segment as well on Patreon too. But yeah, we'll get into the rest of the league a little, maybe. You know what? I've been thinking we might want to have like a stardom sit-em segment. We don't know how we'll incorporate it with the podcast as far as how we're gonna do it, but because we usually record on Monday and then your waiver wire comes out on like Wednesday, so then we don't really catch the Monday night game. But we'll figure it out. But that's how it's going so far. So far, so good. Cooper Kupp is about to go on IR for me. I drafted Cooper Kupp in all of my leagues early, and I'm cool with it. I'm prepared.
Who else? I can't even speak English at the moment, but I guess another team who are prepared are the Miami Dolphins, as we were talking about before. Made one roster move in terms of bringing in Snoop Huntley, no longer called Tyler Huntley. Don't know why that name changed, but Snoop Huntley, formerly of the Baltimore Ravens, 2022 Pro Bowl selection, has been signed by the Miami Dolphins off the Ravens practice squad. And it's someone who, if you are not a long-term listener, if you're paying attention to Go Time Dolphins basically since season this year, he has been mentioned a few times by Charlie Touche, as he was someone that Charlie wanted the Dolphins to bring in. Charlie, what have you seen from Huntley, not just this preseason, but in the years past, which made you want Huntley to be the backup to now the backup to Skylar Thompson?
So in the preseason, before the season even started, the Browns had 4 quarterbacks, 3 of them in which were backups. And I'm like, yo, I would take any one of these backups that the Browns have for Tua. Obviously, this is before the injury or before the concussion. And they released Tyler Huntley. Word on the street is the Dolphins tried to trade for Tyler Huntley. And in my head, I'm like, wait a minute. And this is from multiple, I think it's actually public information. I was going to say multiple sources, but it's public information that the Dolphins tried to, or I guess it's a rumor that the Dolphins tried to trade for Tyler Huntley. So in my head, I'm like, yo, if you try to trade for him before the 53 cut down, and now he's a free agent, why isn't he a Miami Dolphin now? Because I really believe that the Dolphins need a backup. Long story short, he gets signed by the Ravens practice squad, and he's not a Dolphins backup. So I'm not sure what really happened there. I'm not sure how that works. But either way, the unforeseen happens, Tua goes down, and there has to be a roster move. Like, you have room on your roster to have 3 quarterbacks, and one is like a free quarterback spot. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to go out of your way. It's a free emergency quarterback spot. You got to fill that spot. So we go ahead and bring in Tyler Huntley. Now, some would say, well, is this the signing for stability if Tua doesn't play for the rest of the season? Some speculate he may be out 4 games, not 4 weeks on IR. Some others speculate that he may be out for the season. Some speculate he's never going to play football again. Some speculate he might not even go on IR and be ready for the Titans game, right? So a lot of people want to know, is this the quarterback signing for longevity, or is this just for right now? Kadeem, in my opinion, I was going to come on this episode prior to this signing. Like, all right, well, let me throw out some quarterback names for Kadeem to see how he feels about the new backup coming in. And I had maybe 15 quarterbacks. Tyler Huntley was at the top of my list. Quarterback number 1 on this list was Tyler Huntley. So I'm like, yeah, we make it happen. We sign him off the practice squad. And I'm not completely sure how the practice squad works. Once upon a time, it was 11 players. Now I think it's 16 players and 4 are protected. So you have a practice squad and you can protect a couple players, like 4 players, I believe. And apparently he was not protected and we were able to poach him. You remember players like Darren Waller was on the practice squad and then the Raiders snatched him up. And, there's been times where even some players got taken off of the Dolphins practice squad and stuff like that. So when it was announced that Tyler Huntley was signed, Hollandale, Florida, when I took you on a tour, Kadeem, I took you around, little bit of the neighborhood tour. Hollandale was on the other side. You didn't get to really pass it, but Tyler Huntley is from 15 minutes away from the stadium. So he's a South Florida kid, and there was a season where Tyler Huntley came in for Lamar Jackson and looked very similar to Lamar Jackson. So it was like, Lamar Jackson was injured, but he didn't get a contract, so he didn't play. And Tyler Huntley, I did the air quotes for all the audio listeners. Tyler Huntley took over and did pretty good. I think he went to the Pro Bowl that season, actually. So
2020, yeah.
So there was speculation that, hey, maybe the Ravens move on from Lamar Jackson and embrace Tyler Huntley as their starter. All that being said, I think he is a more than capable starter for us to be our backup and come in as a starter now. And if I'm being honest with you, Kadeem, Skylar Thompson might start, but he's not going to finish, in my opinion. What you think?
I've seen a lot of people say, again, I don't know why his name is Snoop Huntley, but here's what it is. I'm just calling him Huntley. I've seen a lot of people say the Titans game, that Monday Night Football game, Huntley will be the starter. There are some people who do still believe in Skylar Thompson. Seen quite a few people say, the Buffalo playoff game where we put up 30 in Buffalo, that was Skylar Thompson. That Skylar Thompson hasn't really had a fair chance to run with the starters because, when he started, he came out injured and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, it is what it is. And I've seen people say, could this be a Brock Purdy, Trey Lance problem? It's like, well, no, stop. This is people just, it's way too much. But I feel like that's coming from people who don't want to see Tua. And everyone's out to the pin, is what it is. Huntley, my reservations are more, like you said, we saw him in Baltimore. He looked like Lamar Jackson, but I wouldn't want Lamar Jackson to run this Miami offense. Huntley, he gives you that, running ability. So you might see a few bootlegs, some, design QB ones. That's all great. That's all brilliant. But can you get the ball in the hands of our playmakers? And I feel like, as always, it's one of those things where people think any quarterback can come into this Dolphins offense and run it because it's like, no, we've seen countless people. I say countless. 2 quarterbacks come in, 3 through Mike White, and try and run this offense, and it doesn't look the same as when Tua runs it. So Huntley will be interesting. I guess it kind of allows you to open up more the playbook. You might see some. You see the jet motions we have now, all that kind of stuff with Achan and Waddle and Hill. You might see some flea flickers. It might allow you to be more creative. But at the end of the day, like I said, my reservations are, does Huntley have the accuracy to, make the throw that Tua's making in those intricate windows? And basically, will he be able to find Waddle, Hill, Johnny Smith, whoever's on the field enough to, put up points on the board?
So to tie both conversations that we've had so far on this contract, on this episode, Tyler Huntley and fantasy football, I do not believe Waddle and Tyreek Hill will be fantasy football relevant under Tyler Huntley. All right, so that should give you an idea of what I expect out of Tyler Huntley. Now I want to put that into I want to give you some perspective. I don't believe Skylar Thompson is going to win a game if he's the Miami Dolphins quarterback, starting quarterback. within the next, and this is all if Tua goes on IR for the next, we'll call it 4 games. If Tua goes on IR for 4 games and Skylar Thompson starts those 4 games, I don't believe we will win the game. That is just my opinion. It is just like I assess Skylar Thompson. I see what he can do, what he can't do. He had 2 possessions inside the 15-yard line last game, didn't get in the box. And the game was over, by the way. So it's not like you're getting like the 4th quarter Bills defense, don't let him in. Like, yo, these should kind of be gimmies. And he couldn't get in the box. We had the Jets game, I think. The Paper Planes game, I think we won like 9-6 or 12-9, or it was a field goal fest. I'm not really still. And we might have got Teddy that game, and then Skylar came in. I think that was the Teddy imaginary concussion game. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. And at the same time, Skylar played the entire game, didn't get a touchdown. And correct me if I'm wrong, fact check. I think Skylar Thompson only has 1 touchdown in his career, and he's played in 4 games. And if we go by quarters, 6, 8. He's played like 10 quarters of football. And he only has 1 touchdown, I think. Is that right?
1 touchdown, 3 interceptions.
Cool. 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. And this is not a bashing. This is just an assessment. I don't believe he's going to turn into Colin Kaepernick or Brock Purdy. I don't believe that. I believe he's going to be what he is, which is like Malik Willis, by the way, who busted one of our tickets. I don't know how you lose to Malik Willis, but Malik Willis did that. 10-16. I should have just took the under. My bad. Right? So, yeah, that's what I think we're getting out of Skylar Thompson. Now, I'll be real with you. If Tyler Huntley today, Kadeem, doesn't have the playbook, doesn't have familiarity with the offense, doesn't know his teammates, if Tyler Huntley today came in and started against Seattle for the next 4 games, I believe we have an opportunity because we got Seattle, we got the Titans, we have New England, and I think we have Indianapolis. There's a chance we win all 4 of those games with Tyler Huntley, in my opinion. Now, I don't think we go worse than 2-2 if Tyler Huntley started. I don't think we go worse than 2-2. What do I expect? I expect Skylar Thompson to get the start, and by the 3rd quarter, you're gonna see Tyler Huntley. That's what this is the first game. This is not even a week on the team. I believe that's what you're gonna see, and we'll see what happens. But I do believe Tyler Huntley will start every single game after the Seahawks game, pending IR, if Tua goes to IR or not. So that's what I think. So to tie it all together again, I don't think he gives us enough for fantasy football, to tie it into fantasy football, for your Tyreek Hills and your Jalen Waddles. But I think Achane will still be significantly fed. You know what I'm saying? I think he's going to get a gang of touches, a gang of looks. Another thing is, I would not be surprised if you get like a 20-point game from Tyreek Hill in there somewhere, but don't be surprised if it doesn't happen either. So in my opinion, I'm not sure about any of the weapons, but right now we're not talking about weapons in fantasy football. We need to come up with wins until QB1 gets back.
It's really interesting because I've seen so many people, say that the Dolphins defense has been bad so far this year, and I think it might be the Dolphins beat writer. Can't remember his name right now, but he basically said in that Buffalo game, in Buffalo's 4 scoring drives, they started on average on a 46-yard line, and he was like, "It's not so much that the Dolphins defense has been bad; it's that the Dolphins offense has been bad." And I think that what will be interesting is to see how conservative the play calling will be with Skylar Thompson. Now, listen, Mike McDaniel says, and Skylar Thompson have both said that, Skylar knows the entire playbook, that, it won't be a, cut down version of the offense that Tua runs and stuff like that. So it will be interesting to see if they go, okay, well, it's not a limited version of the playbook, but a lot of quick throws. If you think Tua throws the ball quickly, it's going to be a lot of probably even more screens than what we saw against Buffalo, a lot of slants, a lot of drag routes, a lot of RPOs, and basically say again, like I said earlier, we're not going to ask Skylar Thompson to drop back, use the eyes to move a defender, and then find Tyreek Hill. It can be, hey, he'll everything on a short and intermediate route, and then try and use that speed to break a tackle and go. It will be interesting. I think if A-Chan continues to look like he did against Buffalo, it might make Skylar Thompson's job easier. But I think what does give credence to what you're saying about Huntley coming in, if this offensive line continues to block like it has done against the Bills, Huntley's ability to, scramble and pick up a few yards and, use his legs to extend plays could be why the Dolphins say, okay, you know what? Yeah, we need to make a change, which I guess my other question to you was going to be, I know myself, you and Private Ali have discussed this, but do you expect the Dolphins to make any more moves in terms of offensive line additions? Or will it be a case of we've got Huntley and we're going to keep basically playing the same play that we played so far this season?
So to touch on some of the things you just said about it's not that the defense has been bad, but it was the offense. But that's BS, to put it nicely, because you don't give up a 60-yard run because of the offense, but that's on the defense. You don't let.
But I was gonna say that's just one play, and
right, and you cut me off after just one play, so you don't give up an 85-yard drive either. You see what I'm saying? So my thing is, and then fresh out of halftime, you don't give up a drive either. You see what I'm saying? So for someone to say, oh, it's the offense, and that's why the defense gave up plays, and I kind of felt like that was a possibility of an excuse for the defense to be playing poorly. But then if that's the case, we're only down 10-7. You come out of halftime, wet the bed, give up a long drive after halftime. Like I'm not buying that. Oh, the offense got us tired and we're giving up bigger plays. No, I'm not buying that.
Well, that's why I said if you look at the 4 Buffalo touchdown or 4 scoring plays, the average start position was a 46-yard line. So you're basically playing in one half. That's the first thing. The second thing is that, again, there were the 2 long plays against or the 2 long drives against Jacksonville. But second half, that defense shut out Jacksonville. And again, and that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that the defense has played good, but to say that the defense has played bad when, Tua and the offense have basically said to them, hey, try and stop, the Bills basically in your own half, there's only so much you can do. Now, obviously, I understand that massive run or the 60-yard run from Cook, that's not good enough. You need to do better. But the reason the 60-yard run is because you failed to convert on 4th down. They started at midfield and they broke 1-1. Jordan Poyer was too slow, had no angle. Like I said, I'm not saying the defense has been amazing. The offense has let them down, but they have had to, especially against the Bills. They were basically, it wasn't long drives. It was, hey, start midfield, and off you go.
I'm not feeling Jordan Poyer. Like I looked at dog contract, and in my estimation, shout out to friend of the podcast, Brandon Jones. I think Jordan Poyer is here because, and I think the Dolphins offered to Brandon Jones, but Brandon Jones, if you look at the contract, Brandon Jones took $5 million more to play in Denver, and that's why Jordan Poyer is here. It's a similar contract, very similar contract at APY, but Brandon Jones got an additional $5 million more. Can't even hate him for leaving, if I'm being honest with you. Can't hate him for going to go get his money and securing his future. So I don't even think Jordan Poyer is even supposed to be here. And just looking at him after 2 games, boy, we might have to get a not it drop because he's not it right now. So Jordan Poyer, yeah. So here's my thing, Kadeem.
So very quickly, I found that tweet. It's from Adam Beasley. He also says the Dolphins rank 6th in 3rd down defense and 5th in 1st downs allowed. They haven't been perfect, but you'd expect that to be good enough with all the firepower Miami has on offense. So that's what I'm saying. No one's saying the Dolphins defense has been, oh my days, spectacular, no-name defense. It hasn't been that, but it's been good enough that if this offense has performed better, the Dolphins, you would like to think, will be 2-0 as opposed to 1-1.
That's fair, but I think that's on the offense and on the defense. I don't think it's just, oh well, the defense got to be better or the offense got to be better. Like it's because of the offense, the defense is playing like this, or the defense is playing like this. Nah, bro, y'all both have to take responsibility, and we're 1-1 now. That is it. I don't think it's we're playing like this because of the offense or because of the defense. I think that's a crock. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't like it, but you asked about O-line, and it is funny because I was like, we have a group chat and you're in one of these group chats. I'm like, maybe I'll just address it on the podcast so we could just intertwine all of it right now when I say this. So all right, I gotta say this first. We gotta preface this conversation with something else. What is Tua's long-term play with the Miami Dolphins, or what is the Miami Dolphins play long-term with Tua? In your opinion, just your opinion, not like, oh, I think this is what's being said. Not, I don't need the actual what's going on. What do you think should happen?
I think we kind of discussed this before. I don't know if it's on a podcast or not, but I think the latest injury is kind of like, okay, cool. When healthy, you will be the starter, but once again, health now become an issue. So I think the Dolphins, like I said about the insurance thing, I think they're now probably going to invest even more in a backup quarterback to say, hey, unfortunately, for whatever reason, you take a hit, you get concussed. We can't plan around it, so we can't prevent it. What we can do is make sure that if you do go down with whatever injury it is, our backup is not Skylar Thompson. And it might be a case where maybe in the third round of next year's draft, you bring in someone who falls, or you move up into the second to get someone, or in free agency. It's funny, I think we mentioned Derek Carr as someone who might go get. Derek Carr right now with the Saints looks like he ain't going nowhere. So
the likes of Derek Carr is what I said, just because I didn't want to say like Derek Carr specifically, but the likes of Derek Carr.
So, you might find someone who maybe Tyler Huntley sticks around in Miami and says, you know what, hey, when he comes in, he's done well enough that he can back up Tua, and if you have to play him for 4 games a season, cool, great, fair enough. Or yeah, they go and bring in a Carson Wentz finds his way out of of Kansas City, or a veteran quarterback. I think I wouldn't be surprised if you see a new rookie and a veteran come in next year, but at the very least, I think you'll see a veteran quarterback come in and say, hey, while you are here to back up Tua, your play has to be good enough that if you are coming in for 1 or 2 games, you can play well enough to win us games and stuff.
So a question that I think any Tua fan is uncomfortable answering is, do you think Tua should retire? In a shorter answer, if you can, do you think Tua should retire?
No, not at all.
All right. Thank you for being short. I appreciate that. So I'm gonna be fair and answer the same things that I just asked you, and then we'll tie everything up that you said about O-line. So yeah, we did have this conversation before, and at the same time, I want to be fair because more time has passed, more information has come out, and the more information you get, the more you should be able to your answer should be able to evolve, right? So, Kadeem, hats off to you and Go Time Dolphins and myself as well. We are one of the only podcasts that I know of that has a CTE awareness episode and mental health awareness episode every single year. Just being a little more transparent with you. Like, I came to you, I'm like, hey, bro, I think we should do X, Y, and Z. You know what I'm saying? This is years ago. And you're like, oh, that's a brilliant, mate. Brilliant idea, right? You know how you talk. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And then every time we have that episode, it hits me in the heart, right? I'm like, dang, bro, like it means something a little more different to me than the average. And as someone who was so football oriented growing up in myself, with my three brothers, and all of us played football, and my sisters were cheerleaders. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy. You know what I'm saying? All we do is football, turn into coaches, and now my brother's is an AD. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. This is all we do. Football was our life once upon a time. I remember, I want my son to play football. But then as I understood more of the damage that football brings to the people who actually play it, I'm like, man, I don't want this for not just my son. I don't want this for nobody. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want significant long-term damage done to anyone's body, let alone their brain. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm like more conscious when it comes to CTE and mental health awareness. Bro, last thing I would ever think would be that my favorite player on my favorite team, bro, would be involved in the conversations that we have annually on this podcast, right? But nevertheless, we're here. So when the question comes up, do I think Tua should retire? I'm like, I want to be very clear. Shout out to Tom Pelissero, right? Because I try to stay away from all the foolishness. I really did. I try to stay away from sports media the past couple of days. And something in me kind of felt obligated to like have to listen because it's my team and my quarterback. And I like, all right, we have a podcast. We just can't be oblivious. So I kind of had to listen to it. Shout out to Tom Pelissero. Last year, there was 231 concussions in the NFL. There, on average, 12 concussions a week in the NFL. There are more players in the NFL today that have had more concussions than Tua. Denzel Ward, for one, has had 5 since he's been in the NFL. No one's calling for these people like to stop playing football. All right. But I have a heart, right? So we're going to get into this. And Troy Aikman on the other side of the spectrum, because I understand when people say, yo, Tua should stop playing football. He should retire. I would like to believe, and it's not always the case, but I would like to believe that people are concerned for him and like, oh, you should just back away and you should stop and you think about your health and we don't want any long-term damage, right? I would like to think that that's why they're saying that, although it's not always that. But then on the flip side of some of this concussion talk, and you've had the worst outcomes possible when it comes to concussions and long-term effects and players who are no longer with us, right? You got to be careful with what you say with the algorithm. You know what I'm saying? So on the flip side of that, you have Troy Aikman. Everyone who knows who Troy Aikman is, he's the host of Monday Night Football now. Incredible personality on with Joe Buck. He had 10 concussions in his career, 10 diagnosed concussions in his career. And by the way, those were all diagnosed concussions that I brought up those stats for. Those are diagnosed. So my thing is, Kadeem, the same way you could worry about people and their health and everything, you still have people who played football in a time where the concussion protocol was almost null and void. Like, there's not really a protocol. And people are running stop signs in the protocol, and Terrell Davis is playing football and can't see because he has migraines and he's blind while he's having migraines. It's the wildest thing. That was the protocol back then. So where you had 10 diagnosed concussions and you have someone like Troy Aikman, but then you have the worst case scenarios, I understand that. When someone calls for someone's career, it's like, man, I get it. But if we're going to call for someone's career, bro, what about the linemen in today's game and today's protocol who get concussed all the time, right? Like, if you're going to call for people to retire because of concussions, I think you have to call for like football to just stop altogether. Like, it's too many people being concussed. Everyone's like the statistics for concussions all over the board, not just 2 4 concussions. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's in 4 concussions in his career, I think, including college. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you're gonna call for one person to retire, what about the rest of the people that you don't call for? Like, why is it just this person? So Yeah, I understand. 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. The visual aesthetics of Tua's concussions are terrible. Like they cut to the core, and it's like, man, I don't want to see anybody like that. Like, you don't even gotta be my favorite player. I don't want to see anyone like that. I don't want to see no player like that ever. So I understand that his reaction to his concussions are a little bit more, I don't know if you want to say violent or just they're just terrifying. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, actual neurologists and doctors have said that this reaction does not mean his concussions are more severe or less severe than other concussions. And I'm gonna give you the floor, Kadeem. And even actually, we're gonna link. I actually have a link for you, Dr. I'll get his name after Kadeem's talks, and we'll link it to this episode so everyone could check out some of the things that we have to follow up on. But go ahead, Kadeem.
But I thought a lot of it is disingenuous when people say Tua needs to retire and all that kind of stuff. But I can see why, and that seeing why is because of how bad the Bengals one and the one against the Bills was. It's like you see people, was it T. Higgins has a really bad one last year? It might be, or the year before. And it's like, oh, that looks bad. And I kind of feel like because there's no venting motion from most of the players who suffer concussions, people go, it's concussion, it's unfortunate, but it's a part of football which we still can't work out how to get rid of. But with Tua, as you said, it's because it looks so visibly striking. It's like, yo, this isn't just a run-of-the-mill concussion. This is again, the Bengals one, defense and animations, the being caught on the field. It's like, but then it's the same way, and people said it even after the Bulls game. DeMar Hamlin literally died on the field, physically dead on the field, and he's come back, and he's so fortunate to come back. No one's saying, yo, maybe he should retire, because bro, like you.
There are a couple people saying that.
No, of course, yeah.
There are.
But it's like it's. But again, that's because he died, and even now, it's like, yo, Hamlin, great to be back, excellent, brilliant. I guess the thing I should say is, no one sits there and say that Hamlin's one, or I haven't heard people say Hamlin's one hit away from dying again. But I know people who I consider friends who, all throughout the contract issue with Tua, was like, well, if he gets hit again, he might suffer a concussion. It's like, that's any footballer. I think Alex Anzalone suffered one yesterday for the Lions from a really bad hit from his own teammate. I think Derek Carr had 3 last year. What was so funny is in one of my Dolphins groups, someone said the Dolphins should call up the Steelers, or whoever Kenny Pickens is right now. Kenny Pickett, sorry. Call up Kenny Pickett and see what he's doing. It's like, yo, the guy suffered 2 concussions 2 years ago. Like, what are we doing? If you're worried that Tua is going to get concussed, Kenny Pickett as well. So, I think we've sat here on the podcast, probably in our CTE episodes, and said, if they said to us today, we're going to stop football for 5 years, not for 5 years, but we guarantee that when it comes back, there will be no more concussions, sign us up. We will take a 5-year Go Time Dolphins break, switch to Go Time MMA or whatever it is. And listen,
it'll still be Go Time Dolphins, but we'll be talking about the history. Like, hey, remember when we had football?
If anything, we'll just like go back to like the 1970 season, watch it week by week, and go, hey, what do you think of that? And then like do the draft, all that kind of stuff. But no, I think there are a lot of Dolphin fans who are rightfully annoyed that once again the conversation is should Tua retire, but it seems to come from a place of just not wanting him to be the quarterback. So kind of like you can now go get your own quarterback because Tua's been forced to retire. But if doctors still think it's safe for him to play football, who are we to turn around and say bro needs to retire? I'm sure bro's had the conversations, but it's before I pass it back to you. No one knows what hit forces a concussion. I was chatting to one of my friends. Shout out to Liam. He's been on the show a few times, heard them in the comments and stuff. He raised a great point to me, which I've never thought about. Why do some punches knock someone out and others don't? We don't know, or even like
why do what?
Like some punches or kicks knock someone out. You could be in a boxing match, UFC fight. punching over and over again, and there's one strike, one hit, knocked out cold. Don't know what it is. Until we work out what causes concussion, like what particular hit or how hard it hit or how whatever it is, I don't think anyone will turn around and say a player needs to retire. And I've seen people mention the Chris Bosh situation. To me, this is different from Chris Bosh with Miami. I think that's just people just trying to tie two things, and whilst I'm trying to be smart, it's like again the two different things. But knock yourself out.
So I'll be very clear because I'm not sure if I answered the question or not. So I want to be fair. I do not think Tua should retire, but I do wish I don't ever have to see that again. You know what I'm saying? Like, not just be not because he's my favorite player. Like, I don't want to see it, period. I don't want to see anyone have to go through that. And to know that he's gone through it so many times, I don't want to see it, right? So you take that conversation and put it with like, hey, Tua, you can do whatever you want to do. You know what I'm saying? And then I am of the belief, and I hope people will understand that this is coming from a genuine place. Like, I am of the belief that Tua's concussions are not worse than other concussions that we haven't seen or know about, because it has been supported by actual doctors who have said that, right? So when those doctors reach out to Tua, or Tua reaches out to them, and he gets third and fourth and fifth and sixth opinions, and they all support the fact that, yo, your concussions are not worse because they look like this, that should bring a little bit of, I don't even know if I can say the word comfort, right? But it should bring a little bit of understanding that, okay, they're not worse, but they just look worse, right? That being said, that's the Tua conversation. Like, hey, yeah, Tua, you can do whatever you want. You can play, you can not play, you can walk away, and I would still respect either decision. Flip side is they're still the Miami Dolphins, because Tua is my favorite player, Kadeem, but the Dolphins are my favorite team. And as the Dolphins have already done right by Tua, and now they have to continue to do right by the city. Because I'll be very clear, bro. When Tua's out, bro, his teammates suffer. Like, these boys get, just Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill make $75 million a season, like, combined. You know what I'm saying? And now all of a sudden their Super Bowl aspirations, because we're talking about football, a game, are obliterated. You know what I'm saying? So not only does this teammate suffer, the team suffers, the franchise suffers, the entire city of Miami, Kadeem, like, suffers. The fan base suffers. It's like, yo. So that's what I tried to say in last episode, and I never got around to it. I actually listened to it back. I didn't get to say it. But it's important, imperative for Tua to understand, bro, when you make a decision like this and end up being hurt, that decision puts everything in jeopardy. Like, every person's job on the franchise is in jeopardy now because of the decision you made not to slide or to take one for the team or to show your team that try to make a spot. Like, bro, we don't need you to do none of that, actually. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need you to protect yourself, right? So now that we're here, getting into your question now, Kadeem, and actually we're going longer than what we thought. But to get into your question now, you talked about the O-line. And I would push back and say, well, why can't we do things simultaneously, right? Like, why can't we walk with a left foot in front of us and then we put the right foot in front of us? The left foot, we can do that. We could do multiple things at the same time. And the reason why I say that, Kadeem, is I think me and you always been on this podcast, O-line. Front office would be like, oh, nah, we're all right. You know what I'm saying? We believe in our O-line. I hear y'all, but I'm not buying it no more. You know what I'm saying? I've already said it. And this has nothing to do with the Tua concussion either. This is just, we need to fix the O-line, right? So now that we're here, Kadeem, we still need O-line, but we also need a long-term backup quarterback who is better than every other backup quarterback in the league, obviously, because our quarterback may or may not be able to protect himself. All that being said, that's when the Bryce Young conversation came up today. Well, Bryce Young just got benched. And in our group chat, Kadeem, someone said something about Josh Rosen maybe. And I'm like, yo, Josh Rosen didn't have Coach McDaniel. And if I'm being honest, if Josh Rosen had Coach McDaniel, there's a chance Tua might not even be our quarterback. Not saying that it would have worked out, just saying, right? So my thing is, here we are. An episode ago, I was like, yo, the Dolphins have to spend significant assets and compensation on a backup quarterback to back up Tua. And we have to prepare ourselves to transition away from Tua if the worst case scenario happens where he actually says, hey, yo, I'm done after the fourth or fifth time it happens, right? So you have to be able to put yourself in a situation to protect your franchise. All that being said, Kadeem, Bryce Young is the type of situation, the Bryce Young situation is what I should say, is the type of situation where the Dolphins can benefit from. Now you have Josh Rosen on the other hand, where you spent a 2 for to bring him in, and you kind of wanted him to be a starter. In this case, we don't want Bryce Young to be our starter. We just want him to be a backup for the next couple years. You see what I'm saying? So maybe you don't spend a significant 2 for it, but at the same time, it is the insurance policy that the Pittsburgh Steelers just put together like, yo, we got Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. So it's all about timing. When we talk about your O-line thing, you said, well, can we just fix the O-line first? I'm like, yo, you could do multiple things at the same exact time, and it's about timing. Like if there's an O-lineman that becomes available that you can snatch up for a third-round pick, yeah, let's snatch him up. But if there's a backup quarterback that becomes available for a third-round pick, are you not going to snatch him up because you want an O-line first?
It's interesting because the Bryce Young conversation was the one I was going to bring up on Extra Point on Patreon. So if you are subscribed on Patreon, sign up because those are the kind of conversations we have over there. Don't quite make it to YouTube. Bryce Young is someone who, yeah, now he's been benched. If I was Miami, I'd probably try and get him in. I wouldn't look for a second, not at all. But I don't know who you could send the other way. If that helps, maybe give them Skylar Thompson. Maybe you give them. I can't even think.
Doesn't matter,
but you do that. The one thing I will say about the offensive line, because I think I was having this conversation with 5 Yard Lee when he was back in Miami. I love saying that when he was in Miami. I will give credit where I think it is due, but it's not enough. The Dolphins starting line, if everyone was fit and healthy this year, I believe all 5 players would have been either drafted or acquired since the Dolphins picked up Tua. So Teron Armstead, big name free agent signing. Austin Jackson, same draft as Tua, obviously paid. Liam Eichenberg, obviously drafted after Tua. Aaron Brewer, obviously acquired this offseason. And as Irwin acquired last offseason. Two of those people I just named were drafted, not to mention friend of the podcast, Robert Hunt, who's obviously now left. So I do think the Dolphins have tried to build an offensive line for Tua. I think when people say that Chris Greer hasn't drafted offensive linemen, that's quite disingenuous because he has. He hasn't got all of his picks correct, which is, a whole other conversation. So
no one does. No one gets it all right.
And I think maybe it's an extra point thing, but I kind of feel like Dolphin fans have this, in my opinion, unrealistic expectation of what they want from Chris Greer. Now, again, hold him to a very high standard because we will do that on Go Time Dolphins. But also know he's not going to get every pick right. So again, just drafted Patrick Poole because when Teron Armstead does get hurt, you've got your long-time solution there. And there's no reason why, if the Aaron Brewer center edition pans out, Austin Jackson at right tackle has panned out, hopefully Patrick Poole pans out. The Dolphins have tried. In my opinion, like we said, they haven't got every pick right, but to sit here and say that the Dolphins haven't drafted an offensive line isn't quite true. That doesn't mean you don't stop trying. And I said this after week 1 again to 5 Yard Lee. I'm looking at teams like the Panthers, the Giants. If they've got veteran old linemen who, can be acquired for cheap because both those teams are looking at the number 1 overall pick right now, then yeah, go and do it. There will be teams over the next few weeks who hopefully the Dolphins do pick up enough wins that they aren't in this conversation. but definitely some teams will have fire sales around week 7, around week 8. Dolphins should 100% be buyers, especially if it's for the offensive line, because, until you have the best offensive line in football, you should be doing more to, basically get to that level.
100%, bro. You never seen Patrick Mahomes have to have the type of O lines Tua has had, and they did more than try. They fixed it. They got it right. You know what I'm saying? And then the year that they didn't have a good enough O line, they didn't win. You know what I'm saying? So it's synonymous. I'm not sure how many Super Bowl champions have had average O lines. I'm not sure. And I said that right. I'm really not sure. So yeah, man, this where we are. We actually gonna go to Patreon and have some more topics and extra points and fantasy football conversations, recap, easy money, all the other good stuff. But you got something else before we get out of here, Kadeem?
Not at all.
Y'all know what time it is. Stay positive, test negative. For Kadeem Simmons, I'm Charlie Touche. Thank you for tuning in this time. Make sure you catch us next time on Go Time. Already.
You mentioned this earlier, Saints in bonus time. Where do you think it's gone wrong with Jordan Poyer? Do you think it's just one of those situations where it came a year too late? Obviously, we tried to get him last off season. He opted to stay in Buffalo. He's come this off season. It's just, the tires are done, or the tread on the tires are done, and it's just not going to work. Or is it a matter of, it's only 2 weeks, give it another week or two before we push the not hit button?
I don't know Justin Poyer personally. I want to clear that up. I don't know him personally. Never met him in person. But Kadeem, I met a lot of Dolphin players in person, and actually, all of the ones that I met, I've actually said this. Like, dang, I understand what type of locker room we have with this guy in the locker room. I get what the Dolphins are doing right now because I met this person, and his personality is incredible, and he's a dude, and he's a human being, genuine human. All the people I ever met from the Dolphins are of the similar cut from a similar cloth. Jordan Poyer, never met him. I already said it, but he doesn't strike me that way. And not only does he not strike me that way, Brandon Jones was the first. We were going to resign Brandon Jones, friend of the podcast, Brandon Jones, who we drafted. We were just going to retain him. However, he got offered more, so we lost him. So it wasn't that the Dolphins didn't try to keep Brandon Jones. We lost Brandon Jones. So if I'm being real, Jordan Poyer, you was the side piece, bro. You know what I'm saying? We lost the one we really wanted. You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't even really want you. You know what I'm saying? So I don't. If you listen to Bills fans, they said he was washed last year. Oh, y'all can have him. You know what I'm saying? And so maybe he was washed last year, but until he turns the corner, we're only in week 2. Until he showed me something, bro, he not really it, bro. I'm just be real with you.
I think the Poyer edition was, again, try and get more veteran presence on, the back end of the defense and stuff like that. But also, like I said, they tried to sign him last year, so there's something there. And I think that's more of that, I don't want to say winning mentality, but, to stop being soft, per se, because that's the one thing I guess rival teams have kind of said about the Dolphins. We are quite soft, or can be quite soft. And I think they tried to add Jordan Poyer, especially last year, where you keep, Brandon Jones, and hopefully, that toughness kind of rubs off on some of these guys, and you then send the podcast Brandon Jones, say, Poyer, thank you so much. Done your year, off you go. I think a lot of it is more just a case of, we kind of forgot that Marcus May was on the roster, but I would not be surprised if Marcus May, in the next week or
Straight up, bro.
Hey, Poyer, this ain't working. We're not benching you, but your snaps are being limited, and Marcus May. And again, I think, if the Dolphins can find offensive line this year, be it guys already in the building, or they bring someone in by a trade, and they extend from the podcast on Javon Holland, I would not be surprised if they don't move Jalen Ramsey back to safety, or they draft a safety early next year. Because I do think that's probably one of the positions which, apart from offensive line, is looking a bit shaky right now, and he's going to need to improve sometime soon.
We're gonna be all right, bro. I'm not tripping. I think, I would like to come out of this next stretch 4-0. And I think it's possible even without Tua. I actually think it's possible. So we'll see where we're at. It's just when we talk about the safety thing, he looked like he had some juice left in the there was some juice left in the squeeze. You know what I'm saying? He picked off Tua at the end of the game, although it was like Tua didn't do himself no favors and just didn't go through his reads. So I ain't gonna lie, I kind of thought maybe Poy got a little something left, but now that you get to see what you got, it's like, nah, bro, I know what I'm seeing. This eye test, I know what I'm seeing. Now, Kadeem, something that South Floridians are used to in the professional world is athletes coming to South Florida, like, oh yeah, I'm in my career in Florida. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, let's go to the beach. Let's get on the boat. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, let's go float by downtown and take pictures, baby. You know what I'm saying? Live it up. You know what I'm saying?
I was saying, yeah, Shaq Barrett signing the free agency, didn't even play a game. You know, I'm done. So,
bro, I don't like when athletes come to South Florida for the lifestyle and forget that they are a professional athlete, bro. Like, and that's been a thing in South Florida. Like, the residents of South Florida don't like it either. And we like, yo, bro, now don't come down here and not perform. And then back when I used to be in the strip club, I used to be there. You know what I'm saying? I used to be there. So back when I'm there, you there with me, and we just had a loss. Like, now I'm not here for that, bro. Like you gonna hear, but you know what I'm saying? We just lost, bro. What you you over here chilling? Like, you couldn't wait to get here. You know what I'm saying? That's why we losing. Like, bro, we actually let people hear it, Kadeem. We not with that, bro.
That's yeah, you just lost. Why are you at home in the playbook? Because you clearly don't know it. Instead you out here like 4-1. It makes zero sense. But no, listen, I think there's a lot of, and rightfully so, I've seen people, sell their season tickets and start looking at Cam Ward and quarterback and all that kind of stuff. It's like, it's week 2. Chill. The Ravens are 0-2. Like, it's not the end of the world. You're 1-1, got some winnable games, even without Tua. Just make sure when Tua comes back, you have a winning record and he will, drive us to the Super Bowl. So, Charlie, anything else before we head up to Patreon for Extra Point?
Nada.
Then we shall see you on the next one. Peace.
Gotta make them lose their mind when it's your time. And it's show time. Going all out when it's go time. I ain't wasting no time. Gotta make them lose their mind when it's show time. Cause it's your time. Lay it on the line when it's go time. Don't waste no time. Gotta make them lose their mind when it's your time. And it's show time. Going all out when it's go time. I ain't wasting no time.
Music.